Hi, I'm back in the Arrowsic woods, and today I'm going to share with you some of the books I've written and some of the reasons those books got written. The first one I want to share with you is A Isn't for Fox. A Isn't for Fox came about when I was teaching ninth grade English, and they weren't using any kind of detail. And I'm sure some of you get tired of hearing about that too. Well, I got them to write some detail by describing things by what they were not. And later that day, A Isn't for Fox jumped right into my head. And I began writing an alphabet book. And the alphabet book goes something like this. A isn't for fox, it isn't for box. A is for ants that crawl over your socks. Well, the whole book goes on that way, and I'd like to share just two of them with you because they have something to do with my life. And the first one is the pileated woodpecker. The pileated woodpecker was a woodpecker that I watched a lot in the place where I grew up in Pennsylvania. So I was really excited to find the pileated woodpecker in Maine also. So he had to be in the book. Another one that's in the book is the yak, who is chocolate brown and so hairy. Well, he's in there because my dad was a photographer for Hershey Foods, so I grew up with lots and lots of chocolate, which I don't get to eat as much anymore. But it was a good thing, and it was a fun reminder. Now I'm sitting on a rock, so I've got to be really careful that the books don't go sliding away. So the next book I'm going to show you is the book that came about when I moved to Maine. And there goes Fox. Okay. Well, we moved to Maine a long time ago. And one of the things I really liked about Maine was that it had woods, just like where I grew up in Pennsylvania, which made me very happy. It also had the ocean, which made me happy also because as a child, my parents took us to the ocean in Delaware every year. It also had, up in Aroostook County, the most beautiful farm fields, and I grew up in Pennsylvania Dutch farm country. So a lot of things about Maine really resonated with me about home in Pennsylvania. And the people here are just as nice and wonderful as the people in Pennsylvania. But one day I was sitting in L.L. Bean signing my other books, and it was at Christmas time, and on the loudspeaker came the 12 Days of Christmas. And I looked around, and there's the big stuffed moose. And sitting on another side were jars, little jars of blueberry jam. And on the Christmas tree, there were round sand dollar ornaments. And I got to thinking, maybe there could be 12 Maine Christmas Days. So I started scribbling right there in L.L. Bean, and the end result was my 12 Maine Christmas Days. The fun thing for me about this book was not only that it was a take on the 12 Days of Christmas, because as a music teacher I had taught that a lot, but also that one of my colleagues where I worked and one of my friends became the illustrator. And Sandy Crabtree lives right across the river here from where I live, and I knew her watercolors would make this book absolutely beautiful, and it absolutely did. And the fun thing about it is that because Sandy was the illustrator, we both managed to have our grandchildren show up in the illustrations. And that's not something that happens all the time. So this book has been very popular. It has gone all the way around the world. It's been in the Philippines, it's gone to Germany, it's gone to Japan, and it often goes to people who used to live in Maine or former students that I have had that have moved away and their parents send it to them, or some people who've just visited here and other people who are trying to convince friends to move here. So it's been a fun book for me and for a lot of other people. Well, the last set of books I want to show you are 3 books that go together, and it's called the Journals of Anterg. And Anterg is actually a village based on the village where I grew up. And in fact, the map that is in the front of this book is actually a map of where I grew up. It's a little village called Mount Gretna, Pennsylvania. And I grew up right over in this part of Mount Gretna. And a lot of the buildings in Mount Gretna became buildings with different names in the Call, which is the first book. And the Call deals with a boy named Moto and his dragon named Ibu. And what they have to go through to learn how to work together and to be together. And why did that dragon show up? Because dragons usually mean trouble. And Moto finds that his gift for music also becomes his strongest power in fighting that evil that comes. Well, when the Call was finished, I was like amazed because I thought I could only do picture books. But here was my first novel. But the story wasn't over. So I started on book 2. And that is The Dragons. Moto has to deal with a conflict of his own, besides the conflict that is threatening their village. Moto has to learn to fly on Ibu, and Moto is afraid of heights. And what is he going to do? Because unless he can fly on his dragon, they can't protect their village. And he has another problem too. His cousin, a girl, has moved in to live with them, and he's not quite sure what to make of her. Well, Moto and Ibu and Paige and Moto's best friend, Tommy, who is not magic like Moto, all work together to find a solution to the problem. But once again, the story wasn't over. And so, we end with the sword. And Moto and Ibu fly off to Blooming Grove to find the answers to their questions and to be challenged to see if they truly can operate as a dragon and a pard. Well, Moto and his music and the dragons and his friends and his family all work together for the common good of Anterg. And in the end, well, you'll have to read the end to find out if they succeed. But Moto and Ibu and the magics and the naturals, they all work together, not only to help each other, but to take care of nature. And maybe that's something we all ought to think about. Well, I've had a great time, and it's been wonderful being part of the Bath Book Bash and to get to meet all you great people. So please keep reading, keep writing, keep drawing. And when you want to find me, you know where I'll be, right here in the woods. Bye.